We can start, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to GSTZen. My name is Venugopal, and we've been having the sessions regularly on GST updates from GSTZen, and very happy to be with you once again. Today's session is about availment of ITC, optimizing it through GSTZen. How do we use technology? And also certain basics of the input tax credit, because the ITC is the base of everything under GST. Just to give you a glimpse about GSTZen, GSTZen is an ASP GSP. We've been in the business over 7 years, and we help corporates in filing GST returns through our tool. In fact, most corporates use GSTZen for reconciling their returns. This tool will also help you in generation of e-invoice, and post generation of the invoice on the cutoff dates, which is 14th of every month, you will be able to download GSTR 2B, compare with your vendors, purchase register, and send an email wherever there are differences. Helps to take better cash flow decisions, which we'll again discuss today. And we'll also have a demo. Apart from that, we provide a lot of API solutions integrating to various ERPs. And our customers range from mom and pop stores to the listed entities. With this brief note, let us begin the today's session. And we would be covering on what input tax credit is. Though it's been 6 years, some of you might be knowing this full and full. Some might be not remembering this, but it's duty that someone who is into finance and indirect taxes, we need to understand the provisions of the law. We will see how do we report in 3B and penal consequences if there are any violation. How GSTZen can help you in optimizing your input tax credit. What are the tools and reconciliations we have? With me, I have Utkarsh here, who can answer you any of your queries on the chat. If you have any questions, you can put it up on the chat. Along with me, I also have my colleague Bharti and Manisha, who would walk us through how we can use technology to leverage the reconciliation. Moving on to input tax credit. Input tax credit is, as we all know, it's a credit on purchases. It's a credit on purchases. Primary condition is you got to be a registered person in case you want to avail the input tax credit. When I say you got to be a registered person, if a person is unregistered, a B2C vendor is not going to get input tax credit. Second, this purchases should be in the course of furtherance of the business. If this is not for business, you would not be getting any input tax credit. Now, those are the two fundamentals for someone to avail the input tax credit. However, there are 6 conditions, primary conditions that have been listed for someone to avail the input tax credit. Condition number 1 is the registered person who is a recipient of goods and services and the invoice should be in possession of the invoice. So if someone is availing input tax credit, they have to have in possession of the invoice. Now, if you do not have the invoice, you cannot avail the credit. So primary condition is you got to have a tax paying document with you. Now, what is the tax paying document? Rule 36 of the Act talks about what are all the permitted documents one needs to have to ensure that the input tax credit is taken. So you cannot take a credit if you do not have a document. Most of the times I get a question, sir, what if my supplier do not sign the invoice and he sends it to me over the email. Or today we have all the ERPs which can generate a document or a PDF and an email can be sent. Can that be considered as a document? Can I account my expenditure based on that? The answer to that is Rule 46 mandates if someone is sending a document electronically, they have to apply a digital signature. You cannot say this is a computer generated invoice document and doesn't require a signature. Bad, invalid. You is like you are prohibited to use that. Because if you say this computer has generated it and no one is owning it, that's not right. You have to definitely consult your legal team before using those words. Second, I see some of the invoices where someone attaches a scanned signature. The signature is scanned as an image. That image is embedded in the document and sent. Is that right? Again, answer is no. That's not the digital signature. You got to affix digital signature. Today, every business person knows what is a digital signature because they've been using it for income tax, ROC, and various other purposes. Electronic Evidence Act recognizes digital signature. So if you're wanting to send it electronically, please apply digital signature. In case, if you're sending it physically, print it, sign it physically and send it. The earlier two methods which I have said, which is computer generated, no signature or scanned signatures is not permitted. How GSTZen can help you? Again, you can get in touch with Utkarsh, who can assist you on whatever is your cloud software. You can take an organization digital signature and the signature can be affixed on the invoice, which is automatically emailed to your all the customers from the cloud. You don't need to do anything. You just need to buy an organization signature and it can be affixed. So ensuring that you comply with the law is very important. Let's say you are a recipient. How does it matter to you? Yes, of course. For a recipient, you have to ensure your compliance and not supplier's compliance. So as a supplier, you have to do it. But for as a recipient, what is that you have to check? You have to check in that document whether your GST number is visible or not. Let's say supplier has not complied. He has still sent you that this is a computer generated document. He is at fine. Let's say the 25,000 rupees general penalty is applicable to him. But is your input tax credit at risk? Answer is no. Even though supplier is not complying with Rule 46, if you have a document which will say who is the supplier and his GST number, who is the recipient, that is you, your GST number, and the necessary tax thereon, no problem. But suppliers, you as a supplier, you also have to take care of that. That's the point number one. Point number two, this document which is being issued should also be reported by the supplier. So supplier has to file his GSTR1. That's another condition. The supplier has to file the GSTR1. So you may say, sir, I'm importing the goods. Where is the question of GSTR1? Or I'm paying under reverse charge. Where is the question of GSTR1? Now, there are invoices specified, only those needs to be reported. So 36 sub-rule 2 gives you permission to take the credit. Basis the strength of bill of entry, basis the strength of self-tax invoice, which both of them doesn't get reported in R1. All other credits, it's mandatory that one has to report it in GSTR1, only then you can take the credit. So you cannot take a credit if it is not reported by the supplier in GSTR1. That's the second condition. All right. So invoice is with you. He has reported to the government portal, taken care. Now the question that comes is, has he sent the goods? Are you in possession of the goods or not? If you are in receipt of the goods, only then you can take. If you have not received the goods, you cannot take input tax credit. input tax credit has to be availed only if all the conditions are fulfilled. Friends, again, if you have any questions, feel free to put your questions in the chat box. Our experts will take it at appropriate time. So if you are not in receipt of goods, you cannot take the credit. When we say receipt of goods or services, let's take an example that I am providing AMC services. Let's say I am providing an AMC services for lift, or even more better straight example, simple example. You have subscribed GSTZen software for 1 year. And let's say you have taken the subscription in the month of March. You have taken the subscription in the month of March, and your subscription is valid up until March of next year. Would you be available? Would you be entitled to take the credit? Have you received the services? You may say that, hey, you received invoice. So section 7 of the Act, the supply includes agreed to supply. So I have made a payment for the software subscription, and the supplier has agreed, GSTZen has agreed to provide you 1 year service. Now, the moment they have entered into an agreement and agreed to provide you services, so you have received the service of provision of filing of the returns and usage of the software. Now, during the course of the year, if something goes wrong, it's a civil suit, so nothing to do. So the obligation has been fulfilled by the supplier by making the portal available. In case of an AMC, the obligation has been fulfilled by the supplier by signing the contract, agreeing that he will be providing you the 1 year contract. So with that, your contract gets fulfilled. Again, you will be entitled to take input tax credit. So you got to check whether you have availed it or not. So with this, we have discussed the 3 conditions, 16(2)(a), AA, and B. Moving to the very important condition, that is GSTR2B. Now, supplier has filed the return, which is GSTR1. That is what this is. He has fulfilled this condition. But has he filed his return on time? When we say filing return on time, so the R1 should have been filed on 11th. In case of IFF, the IFF should have been filed by 13th. If the returns have been filed by the supplier well within that time, the government portal will communicate this data to be the recipient under section 38 in the form of GSTR2B. Not just that, the government said such credit is not restricted by section 38. That credit is not restricted by section 38. This is something yet to take light of it. It is not up yet. It will be coming very soon. Of course, some of the provisions have already kicked in one or the other form. So you also have to ensure that the input tax credit is not restricted by section 38. Very soon this is going to come. The next condition one has to fulfill is payment of tax to the government. So the supplier has to pay the taxes. He has issued R1, but he didn't file the 3B. You will not get the credit of it. And the last condition, you got to avail the credit by filing your returns. Credit means filing of returns, which is your GSTR 3B. You cannot avail the input tax credit. Say, I have reported in my annual return, I have reported in my DRC03, I have entered in my books of accounts. None of them are called input tax credit. Your input tax credit is to come through only when you file your returns. Friends, these are the basic conditions one should be aware of input tax credit. Any questions to anyone on the input tax credit, the conditions that are there, please put your questions in the chat. We will take it up appropriately. Now, moving further, these conditions, which is possession of the tax paying document, all those things has to be ensured. The question is whether it is pre or post. The question is whether it is pre-condition or post-condition. Now, I will say these conditions are to be availed at the time of filing of the returns. For the conditions on payment of taxes by the supplier, the government has brought in new rule 37A, wherein they are saying that the ITC has to be reversed by the recipient if the supplier is not filing 3B. So again, how GSTZen can help you? You can look at all your GSTR 2B suppliers. We have a tool. You can just load that. You can see whether those suppliers have filed their GSTR 3B or not. If they have not filed their 3B, you will have to necessarily reverse it by 30th November. And can I reclaim it? Of course, yes. If once you have reversed it, you can reclaim it. So what does the rule says? The input tax credit availed by the registered person in 3B, if the details of which have to be furnished in the form of R1 and 3B basis that, but the supplier has not filed his return 3B by 30th September, then the ITC shall be reversed again in 3B by 30th November. Now, if you don't reverse the ITC, you will end up paying interest at the rate of 18%. But if you reverse, can I re-avail? A re-availment is permitted. There is no time limit restriction till whatever be the period the taxes have been. Let's say the supplier has filed his 3B, maybe after 10 months later. Can I avail it after 10 months? Answer is yes. You reverse, let's say on 30th November, 10 months later, in July of the next year, you can still avail. The 16/4 time limit will not be applicable in this situation. And the next thing one has to be looking at is the 16/4 time limit. The original credit has to be availed on or before 30th November. Everyone has to avail the input tax credit on or before 30th November. This is something one has to be very mindful of. Please note, the availment of credit does not apply for re-availing the credit if you have originally availed and reversed. For those aspects, this will not be applicable. If you make an error in reporting of 3B in your returns, the new rule that has come, you also have to be very mindful of the penal provisions. So I said only value that is there in 2B, you can take the credit. Let's say you fulfilled everything. You are seeing that invoices in your ERP system, goods have come, supplier has filed his R1, he just filed it late, it is there in 2A, and he filed his 3B. Let's say you have made the payment, everything, but it is not there in 2B. Then can I take the credit? The answer is no. So the government has put a new restriction saying a rule 88D, if the input tax credit availed in GSTR 3B is greater than 2B in any tax period or periods by combining YTD basis as such percentage basis, portal will automatically issue a notice in the name of DRC01 Part A asking you to do two different things. Either agree that it's a mistake and make the payment of taxes through DRC03, or you say that there is an error by the portal. What you did is correct. Make a reply in the online within 7 days. If you don't make a reply, a show cause notice would automatically will be issued under 7374. You would be liable for penal consequences. Better ensure you do it. Again, how Zen can help you in GSTZen, you have an automatic notice tracker. So when you log into GSTZen, it will track all the notices that have been issued to you. And so I'm sure the team is putting up a good, beautiful calendar for you to do a reminder system and escalate to the management. So seeing various notices, everything, they will be also helping you to automatically download at a PAN level and seeing the notices and appropriately making a reply. So for a notice of this, you should be making a reply saying that yes, I have availed input tax credit extra now because it was not availed earlier. Or it is import of goods, I have entered into the wrong category. Import of services, I have entered into a wrong category, or this is not available. Or it is I erroneously excess reverse in the earlier period, which I'm re-availing. So all these reasons you will have to give. If you have a reason, anything other than this, you can specify it under any other category. So making a reply within 7 days is mandatory. If you're not making a reply within 7 days, then you are sure to get a show cause notice, and which will be putting you into a bigger problem. Next, how do I report it in GSTR 3B? It's a fairly simple format. I'll quickly walk you through, and in another 5 minutes, we'll wrap it up and look at how GSTZen can help you in reconciliation and automatically emailing it to vendors and various other things. Firstly, there was an earlier form. I still brought it. Reason being, people are because the earlier form was there for 5 years. August 22, the new form has come. Availment of input tax credit is in 4A, reversal is in 4B, net availment is 4C, 4D is an information. Now, when we say reversal in 4B, reversal are categorized into two types. Something which is of permanent in nature in 4B1, something which is of temporary in nature in 4B2. So, permanent reversals to be tracked in 4B1 and temporary reversal, let's say goods have not received or you have not paid to the supplier and you're reversing now, you will re-avail when the supplier has paid, or supplier has not filed 3B, so you are reversing anything for some reason. So there's a timing difference. You will reverse now and avail it later. Mark them under 4B2. Make sure that the net input tax credit that you are availing is 4A minus 4B. When you are re-availing that credit, you have to report that re-availment in a table called 4D1. This is the important thing. This is a key thing. So it is an intimation that you are saying that, hey, look, I have reversed earlier in 4B2. My reversal, which I have done in 4B2 earlier, I am now availing it in my 4A. And whatever is the availment of 4A extra which you are doing, you will be reporting it in 4D1. This is a rule, you have to do it. Again, when you are using GSTZen, you can track it, how much you have temporarily reversed and how much you have re-availed, how much is balanced to revail. That tracking can be done when you use GSTZen. So control point is the sum total of 4B2 should always be higher than what you are re-availing it. So what are the temporary credits? In GSTZen, you can mark while you are doing a reconciliation. Again, our Manisha would be doing a demo of it. While you are doing the reconciliation, you can mark it that these credits, I am not going to avail them now. I would want to avail it later. So it could be where any lines in the purchase register saying that vendor has uploaded the goods, but I have not received it, or I have received it, but I'm not intending to use it. I'm returning it back. Or the goods have come, but the invoice has not come. I don't know whether it belongs to me or not. So any of these things, if it is there, you can mark them as temporary in nature. So these things, temporary in nature, would be parked into 4B2 for re-availment at a future. And whenever you are re-availing, you will bring into 4A5. Just to give you a small example, I have put it a small chart here. In the month 1, you have a credit in your 2B, let's say 150 rupees, and you don't want to avail it because the invoice has not come, you have not booked, the books is showing 0. In month 2, let's say nothing is there in 2B, but you have booked that 150 rupees. So how you would be reporting in the month 1, you'll report 4A5 as 150, but you reverse the 4B2 as 150. Net availment is 0. In month 2, you will avail 150 again. So it doesn't making that your input tax credit availed as 300. The net input tax credit availed is only 150. And the explanation that the extra is not 300, is coming by way of 4D1. So in 4D1, you are indicating that, okay, this credit which I'm availing now is pertaining to an earlier period, and you will be reporting it in your 4D1, and 4B2 should be matched. This is something, again, you can track it using GSTZen. So these are the various things that I have to explain you. Let me take up some questions before I hand it over to the team. So Karthik is asking, what is provisional ITC? Earlier GSTN portal had this concept of provisional ITC. Whenever an ITC is availed, it is kept under provisional and then moved to the thing. So now, whenever you are parking any credits in your table 4B2, so that credit is not there. This is like a shadow credit. So you can avail those credit on a future period. Karthik is asking, can we claim ITC on such transactions? I don't know. When we are tax paid but not return filed, vendor will avail ITC from 2A. Again, SLR3, I would say that if the supplier filed R1 within 13th IFF or 11th regular R1, you will get the credit, else it moves to the next month. Sanjeev ji is asking, what is the last date vendor to show invoice in R1? Sanjeev ji, section 37 of the Act says you have to file your R1 by 11th. Izar Ahmad, if invoice is raised in March but goods received in April, in which month we can entitle to take the input tax credit? Izar, there are two views in this. If you have received the goods on or before the filing of your 3B, there's a view, they say you can take the credit. There's another view which says that, okay, since the goods are received in April, so they would expect you to follow well in 4A5 in March, reverse in 4B2 in March, again put it back as 4D1 in April and avail again in April. Sanjeev ji is asking, should we check 2A status along with 3B before taking the GST credit? Sanjeev ji, you check for GST at 2B. If an item is there in 2B, you can take the credit. Copy of this PPT would be shared, don't worry. Import of goods is not appearing, you can take the credit basis the bill of entry, and if you have received either ASMT 10 or DRC01C, you can make a reply accordingly. In fact, we are happy to tell we have a tie-up with various CA firms across India. Our team can connect you to the local practicing GST practitioner who would assist you to handle the notice. In case if you do not have a consultant and you need a consultant, which is on a principal to principal basis, you will be negotiating the terms with them. But we have a partner tie-up, so you can connect to our support team. They will assist you in connecting to a partner for handling your GST queries. Can we take car insurance and vehicle maintenance? Answer is no. If you are into business of selling the cars, you will get it. If you are into regular business and you are using the car for your director's employee transportation, you will not get the credit. Dhanu is asking, is 3B editable? I will be claiming excess ITC in current month, but next month I have reversed. Is any problem? 3B is not editable, so you can reverse it in next month, no problem. If you have utilized it, you will be paying interest for 1 month. On which basis we book the material, invoice date or material received date basis? You will be accounting the, while you are booking the invoice in your ERP, all the ERPs have the feature to track what is your expenditure date on which the goods have come. Also, what is the vendor invoice date? Because 180 days norm for making the payment to the supplier kicks in from the vendor invoice date, from not the goods receipt date. Sanjeev ji is asking, can customer raise the credit note on vendor for the services issued in invoice, reverse the GST credit? Look, the input tax credit reversal is by way of credit note, but not the credit note by the customer. Credit note always has to be by the supplier. Director is using a car. Can I get an ITC? Surya sir, no, you will not be able to get ITC. SLR3, from RCM, we have to pay non-GST service and also related expense for RCM rent. RCM has to be paid in cash, and in the same month, along with payment of the cash, you can avail the input tax credit. Sanjeev ji is asking, is GST paid under RCM on residential property taken on rent for the stay of CEO? Yes. Any residential dwelling used by the corporate, should the taxes necessarily to be discharged by the corporate? All right, the questions we have taken. Now look at how GSTZen will assist you in optimizing the ITC. Firstly, you might be an expert in pivot tables. You might be an expert in VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, all those things. But I would never suggest anyone using these Excel. Excel is like a pencil and a paper. Anytime you can insert a line, delete a column, erase something. Not good, right? For you to able to handle volume of records, you need to use a tool, right? And reconciliation is not a person dependent. In fact, you can, from your ERP, you can schedule to send the data to Zen at a periodical intervals. And in the ERP, automatically in the Zen backend, the reconciliation can happen. If you have a missing credits, this is where the optimization will happen in a largely. If a credit is missing, you need to find a way to hold the payment to the supplier to that extent, not make the payment to the supplier. And you have to follow up with them. So the Zen will automatically send an email and say that, hey, look, the reminder system 1, 2, 3, that so-and-so credits have not come. That's possible. Sometimes it so happens that the supplier has supplied to GST1 and the invoice has gone to GSTN2. So you can also do a matching at a PAN level and GST level. The advantage of PAN level matching, you can say, hey, purchase entry is in GSTN ID 1 and say the supplier has reported in GSTN ID 2. So this will help you on a timely basis. Go back to your supplier and get this corrected, right? Also, please note, bill to ship to transactions are permitted to say whether the goods have been received or not. Bill to ship to is also permitted. You also have a facility to look at who are the verify the vendors, whether they filed their 3B or not, so that you can do 37A complaints, check whether 2B has been filed or not, check whether you can take the credit or not. All these are possible, and many more. So I would invite my colleague to do a live demo, and we are here, so we'll answer all the questions. Now, as you are looking up at the demo, I want you to come up with the questions as to how you can integrate and what are the other things you think, if this is there in the software, that will help you. Feel free to put those questions. The objective is your life should be simple and you should be on top of the compliance. Let me stop my screen at this point. Yeah, Bharti and Manisha, over to you.
Hello.
Yes, Bharti.
Yeah, thank you so much for your presentation, sir. So I'll be sharing my screen now.
Yeah.
And I'll be showing the demo of the software. So I hope my screen is visible to all.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is the GSTZen dashboard. So once you have signed up and you log into GSTZen, this is how the dashboard looks like. You can add all the GST numbers to the dashboard. Here it will show you the status of the recent returns. That is your GSTR 1, 3B and 9. So it will tell you whether the return has been filed and if it has been filed on time. So all the basic information of the GST number you can get from the dashboard itself. So perform a function for any single GST number, you can select it from the dashboard and move forward. The other option is autopilot. So in autopilot, what you can do is the same function, instead of repeating it for each GST number, you can select those multiple GST numbers at once let's say I want to download, today is 14, so everybody is downloading their 2B. So instead of going one by one to each GST number and making doing that painstaking process of logging in for each GST number and downloading it for the portal. So what I can do from here is I can select all the GST numbers at once, give the command to download the data from here itself. So I select the financial year and give this start option. So once I log in here, it will start downloading for each GST number. So I won't have to go to each GST number separately. So you can log in with username, password also. I have selected OTP, and it will, as soon as you log in, it will start downloading the data. So you won't have to repeat the same process again and again. Okay. So now moving back to the other main page. Here you have this option of notice tracker also. As Venu sir had mentioned, a lot of notices are being issued by the government portal. So similarly, for all the GST numbers, you can download the notice at once through this autopilot itself. And then we have this notice management also. So for all the GST numbers, you would get a single dashboard, and soon we would be adding a calendar also. So month wise, weekly, or by date, you can see how many notices you have received. Plus you can filter by GST number, issuing authority, and other details. Another thing is it will highlight which notices are new, and you can mark the status also. So at a notice might be at different stages. You might not have read it till now, or let's say this if I take this notice, you can mark it as replied or resolved based on your status at this point, and you can save your response also here. So it will allow you to manage all your notices at one place. So you won't need to log into each GST number as you do now for in the GST portal, and go and see that. As soon as you log in with username password here in GSTZen, it will automatically start downloading your notices, and it will give you a notification if there's any new notice in your GST number. So this was for your notice management. The next part is the other functions that are provided for each GST number. You have the option to download various reports. You have your R1, 2A, 2B, 3B, ITC 04 ledger report, e-way bill, as well as a consolidated report, which compares your GSTR1 with 2A and your 3B. So this consolidated report helps you at the end of the year finalizing your accounts. So you can see during the year how much have you filed in 1 and 3B, and how much ITC was available in 2B, and what you have claimed in 3B. So all of it would be available in this report. The next option is your reconciliation. So I'll be going in detail for this reconciliation. You can reconcile purchase register with 2A, 2B, your sales register with R1, as well as e-invoices. And lastly, you have the option of filing returns, your GSTR1, 3B, 9 and 9C. So now let me go to reconciliation. So here I am selecting purchase register with 2B. The process is exactly the same for all reconciliations. So I'll be just showing you one demo. Then I select the year. The first step here would be logging in with username, password, or OTP. I'm already logged in with OTP. Next step is to select the data you want to download. It is already downloaded, hence it is showing me a green text. Otherwise, it would have shown a yellow circle. So I can select and download the details from the government portal. Since it's already downloaded, there's no need to download it again. The next step would be to upload the purchase register. So we provide various options. A user can upload using Excel. You can directly integrate your tally. Plus, we have APIs which can be used directly from an ERP to push the purchase data to GSTZen. So if I'm uploading through Excel, it is a very simple process. We have given two formats, or you can use your own format also. Just select the file you want to import. the sheet here. And if you have used the similar format before, the settings here, that is the mapping, will come preloaded. These are all the headings in my Excel that I've uploaded, and I'll just map this information. These are the column headings. So document type, I need to select from which column of the Excel is it coming. So this is coming from column AE. So I select document type AE. Similarly, you have supplier GST number, document number. So some are mandatory fields, others are optional. And after mapping is done, you go ahead and process the upload. The other option is your Tally integration. So for Tally integration, your Tally needs to be open, and the specific company for which you want to import the data needs to be open in your Tally. Plus another thing, we provide this application, GSTZen application, which connects Tally to GSTZen in order to fetch that information. So whatever company is open in Tally will show on this page, and then you can move ahead. It will calculate all the ledgers. You'll need to provide the starting and end date. And after that, it will start importing the data. So it is advisable to provide one financial year at a time at most. Okay, so this is the complete information. So here, if there are any errors, it will show below. Otherwise, it will show the summary, and then you can complete the upload. Similarly, for Tally also, if there are any errors, it will show you on the screen. You can correct those errors back in Tally and re-upload. So this is it for your upload. So we have completed two processes, that is your download of data and upload of data into GSTZen. Next process is to run the matcher. So by running this matcher, the program will match the purchase entries that I've uploaded with the entries downloaded from the portal. It will ask for two parameters that you can give as per your preference, that is maximum days difference and maximum tax amount difference. So it will take a few seconds to load this. Once this is done, we can download the reconciliation report. Okay. So the next step is to download the report. We have various bases on which you can download the report. So the first one is your based on invoice date. So right now we are looking at, we are in March month. So everybody is working on their February 2B. So if you want the details only based on the invoice date. So if I download this report, it will contain only the invoices which are dated February. The second one will contain the invoices which I'm claiming in February. So when I'm uploading the data through Excel, I have this option of providing a record date. So there are some invoices which you might have reversed before, as Venu sir had mentioned, temporary reversal. So which you have temporarily reversed before and are claiming now. You can give the record date of February, and when I download this report, it will give me those invoices. The last report will come based on the filing period. So that is whatever invoices have come in the 2B of February, all those invoices will come in this report if I download this monthly report. I also have the option of downloading the yearly report, full year report. So I'll just show you a sample of the report, what the report looks like, and what features are there, which will help you in computing your ITC. Okay, it just takes a few seconds to download. So this is the report. The first page gives you the overview of all the reconciliation. So it will tell you how many are unmatched invoices from books as per portal and how many have matched, and will give you the total. Next sheet is giving you the summary of your GSTR2B that will be populated in 3B for the purpose of this is your auto calculation of ITC based on 2B. The next one is the actual reconciliation. Here you will have different results. Yellow here is indicating the entries are present only in books. Blue is indicating that the invoice is present only in the portal, but no corresponding entry is found in books. And then green is indicating that the invoice has matched. So all these details you will get in this report itself. Okay. Even though the invoice is matched, there might be slight mismatches at individual sections. Let's say there is a slight difference, even though the invoice has matched, there is a slight mismatch of your invoice number. So the report will show you for all the fields, the matching status for each field. So the invoice number, if it is a exact match or a weak match or a strong match. A strong match is indicating the invoice number is similar, but not exactly the same. As you see here, there's a prefix of GMI 2021, but the same is not present in books. So this is a strong match. If the invoice number is exactly the same, then it will say an exact match based on invoice number. And if there is there's no similarity between the invoice number, it will say a weak match based on invoice number. But since other details are matching, like your supplier GST number, the amounts, the date is under the parameter, within the parameter you had given while running the matcher, it will match the invoice. So invoice date gap, if there's any place of supply mismatch, the amount if there's a mismatch or so at the end, you will get the total result, whether if there is a slight whether the invoice is matching at a total level, but it might have some discrepancies. So based on that, you can check and decide to take the ITC. If you are not satisfied, you can email the vendor. We have this option of reconciliation action. You can choose the action based on your preference. So you want to review it later, you can mark review later. You can lock match, that is you want to take the ITC. Then you have email supplier. So if you choose email supplier and provide the email ID in the customer supplier master of GSTZen, you can trigger an email about an invoice directly to the vendor. So similarly, you can mark ITC eligibility, whether it's eligible, ineligible, ITC claim status, whether you're accepting it or it's rejected, pending accept, or accept and reverse. Plus, you can also mark your claim date and any reconciliation notes. So all of this can be saved to the software. Once you provide the information in these columns, you can update the same to GSTZen. And the next time you download the report, these working notes will be available to you. So if even if different team members are working, the notes saved by one person can be accessed by another person. So this is how GSTZen will help you keep track of your IT and manage your vendors as well. Okay. So some other features we have available under various tools which you can use. As Venu sir had mentioned, so you need to keep track whether your vendors are filing your GSTR3B and your one. So here GST file return filing status. In this tool, you can enter the GST numbers. Plus, if you have taken the subscription for this feature, we also send out a monthly report for all your vendors that you have in GSTZen. We'll tell you which vendor has filed the return on which date for your 1 and 3B. So you would get an Excel report at the end of each month, and it will tell you which vendors have filed and have filed on time. So it will give you the vendor as well as their dates of filing. Another tool that we have is GSTN Validator. So this is also an important tool. So here again, you can check the status of a GST number, whether it's active or cancelled or suspended. So when you're filing R1, if you're uploading an invoice which has a GST number and the date you have given, during that time, if the GST number is suspended or cancelled, the GST portal will not accept that invoice. So here, before issuing the invoice also, you can check the GST number status, whether it's active, cancelled, before filing your R1 or before preparing your invoices, you can check the status. See, the thing is, the GST e-invoice portal, the data it maintains is slightly outdated than what you have in GST portal. So if the GST portal sometimes says suspended, so the data database of e-invoice portal is slightly behind GST portal. It might still say that it is active. So there you would generate e-invoice, but the same would not auto-populate in your R1 because at that time the GST number would have been cancelled or suspended. So it's better to check that status also regularly. So before generating the invoice or e-invoice, you have that record. Yes, this GST number is active, so I can issue a B2B invoice. Okay. So another thing that we provide is our APIs. So we provide various APIs, that is your e-invoicing and e-webel. You can directly integrate your ERP with GSTZen through these APIs. You can, so you just have to give a command from your ERP and the e-invoice will be generated. You'd get the QR code and the response there itself. You can issue the invoice. You can, if you provide an email ID, it will directly be emailed to your customer as well. And after that, we have APIs of your R1, 2A, 3B. So once you have, if you are generating everything from your ERP and it is allowing you to create a JSON of R1 there itself, so you can give a command from your ERP itself by integrating the APIs from GSTZen and do everything, manage all your GST compliance from your ERP using these APIs. Please, so that is it on the demo side of things. If you have any questions, please do let us know.
Thank you, Bharti. And if you have any questions, feel free to put up. There's some questions that have come in the chat. We have answered, and some of you were asking the price of the tool or how to integrate with the ERP. How do we automatically generate an e-invoice, affix digital signature to e-invoice and send it? Yes, all you can do, you can reach to our support. We also have our WhatsApp integration thing. You can always reach to our WhatsApp channel. You'll get daily one update about the GST news happening around. We also have a new website, GST Learn. So learn GST in a simple way with GSTZen. So where you can find act, rules, notifications, and you have queries, you can just log in there, post your query. Our expert from the expert panel will be answering those questions. And as I said, the another service connecting to the CAs. We also have, if you have received a notice, you can just log in there, drop your notice. You will be connected to a CA across India looking at the place where you have to reply to that notice, right? These are the various things from us, and some of you have asked PPT. PPT would be sent to you to the registered email ID. Utkarsh has shared you all the link to join our WhatsApp channel. You can click on the link and you can join our WhatsApp channel. You want to have a demo specific to your ERP, you can click on the Calendly application and you can do that. There are a couple of questions which were not answered. Let me take it, those questions. When should we check 3B filing status at the time of availing GST credit or year-end? Sanjeevji, you should be checking GST or 3B filing status year-end, but as a good practice, if you can do it on a monthly basis, that would be good. so that in a timely manner you can address. Let's say someone has given you invoice in the month of April, and rather than waiting till September of next year, it is better you check in May and reach to him. Karthik is asking, open invoice which is not identifiable in books available in 2B, how to consider them under the reconciliation? Yes, Karthik, you can put them as avail for a future date, and through Zen, you can, while you are filing 3B, this data would be going to 4A5 and 4B2 whenever you want to avail. So you have list of invoices which is to be availed in the future. You can, the time where you are availing, it will be marked to 4A5 and 4D1. Yeah. Any notices for the previous years can help? Of course, yes. It would. Our team would be connected. GST credit allowed on RCM on residential property? Yes, as long as it is used for the business purposes, the credit would be allowed. Great. We are well on the time, and all the questions are answered. Thank you, Bharti, Utkarsh, for doing a wonderful job. And we'll catch up with you in the upcoming